We will hunt you down and make you pay.
A deadly day in Afghanistan as 13 U.S. troops are killed alongside dozens of Afghans.
I believe we were wrong, both President Trump and President Biden, to take our troops out of Afghanistan.
Utah's congressional delegation weighs in on what happened today in Kabul,
The game's changed.
where they say mistakes were made and what should happen from this point forward.
I was heartbroken. I was on the verge of tears when this first started unfolding.
Utah veterans who served in Afghanistan are left asking how this happened.
It's something I think we're going to be paying for a very long time.
Now at 9, why those we spoke with believe this crisis was preventable.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9, starts right now.
We have a continuing obligation, a sacred obligation to all of you, families of those heroes. That obligation is not temporary, it lasts forever.
Tonight, Americans are mourning after the terror attacks in Kabul that killed more than 60 people and wounded more than 150 others. Among the dead are more than a dozen U.S. service members. Tonight, we now know who is claiming responsibility for that attack, and it is not the Taliban.
It is a group called ISIS-K. Isabel Rosales with the latest developments and the president's reaction.
President Biden says we will strike back against ISIS-K with targeted attacks outside of full military operations. Some experts argue that will be difficult.
The lives we lost today were lives given in the service of liberty.
America in mourning. The flag on top of the White House now at half-staff in honor of the U.S. service members killed during terror attacks in Kabul, Afghanistan Thursday morning.
These American service members who gave their lives, it's an overused word, but it's totally appropriate here, were heroes. Heroes who have been engaged in a dangerous, selfless mission to save the lives of others.
ISIS in Khorasan, also known as ISIS-K, claiming responsibility for the carnage created by the suicide bombings.
The threat from ISIS is extremely real. We've been talking about this for several days. We saw it actually manifest itself here in the last few hours with an actual attack.
One bombing at a hotel, another at an airport checkpoint where people were lined up desperately trying to evacuate the country before the August 31st deadline.
Clearly, if they were able to get up to the Marines at the screening at the entry point of the base, there's a failure somewhere. It was a failure by, the Taliban operate with varying degrees of competence.
The Biden administration is now vowing swift retribution in response to the deadly attacks.
We're prepared to take action against them. 24/7, we are looking for them.
We will not forgive. We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay.
President Biden says we will not be intimidated or deterred by these terrorists from the mission at hand here, which is the continuation of these evacuations. At last check, 1,000 Americans, about that number, still in the country. In Washington, I'm Isabel Rosales.
There are deep sympathies tonight from Utah's congressional delegation for the families of the military personnel who lost their lives.
Fox 13's Haley Higgins spoke with Utah Senator Mitt Romney, also Congressman Blake Moore, about what they hope happens next.
Both Utah delegates agree while getting justice is important, revenge should not be a top priority for the U.S. right now. A packed crowd at the Marshall White Center in Ogden at Representative Blake Moore's town hall meeting Thursday. The attacks in Afghanistan, the top of mind for the former State Department Foreign Service officer.
But to see that happen and lose military servicemen, it was heartbreaking today. Like, it all just became, the game's changed.
Representative Moore says the U.S. should have acted on intelligence, pointing to severe problems if the U.S. military pulled out of Afghanistan. He says there never should have been a hard deadline.
To do it in a way that wasn't strategic and that completely was, telegraphed to the Taliban about what we were going to do is a major, major military and diplomatic and fly.
Senator Mitt Romney also criticizes the pullout from Afghanistan while touring UDOT's Traffic Operations Center and pushing his infrastructure bill.
It's been a tragedy, and in many respects, we've lost credibility around the world.
As President Biden vows revenge on the attackers, Romney wants the U.S.'s focus to stay on getting Americans and Afghan refugees out of the country first and then get justice.
We have the patience to make sure that those people who've killed American servicemen and women pay very deeply with their lives.
Utah Senator Mike Lee also shared his thoughts. In a statement, he says, "My prayers are with those killed and wounded in action today, their families and their teammates still on the ground. Their sacrifice will never be forgotten. It is our duty to protect those Americans still in Afghanistan and those who have helped us in this fight against evil." Utah Congressman Burgess Owens expresses his condolences, tweeting, "Please pray for our soldiers and citizens in Afghanistan, as well as our Afghan allies. This is heartbreaking." And Utah Congressman Chris Stewart says his prayers are with our troops, our citizens, and the Afghans who were killed or injured in today's apparent terrorist attack. And my heart breaks for those who remain stranded behind enemy lines in this time of violence and chaos. Representative Moore says his office has been working with 150 people currently in Afghanistan. They've been trying to get them out, and he says they are working to expedite those efforts. Reporting in Ogden, Haley Higgins, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Utah Governor Spencer Cox has ordered the lowering of U.S. and state flags to half staff at all state facilities until sunset next Monday to honor the victims of the attacks in Kabul today.
The governor goes on to say, quote, "We owe an immense amount of gratitude to the women and men in uniform who serve us so well and who are helping Afghan refugees flee from tyranny."
A Utah soldier who served in Afghanistan feels completely betrayed by the Biden administration tonight. He has asked that we protect his identity since he is still serving. This soldier says the way the U.S. is leaving Afghanistan is, quote, pathetic. He says the fact that we gave up Bagram Air Base before the evacuations shows a complete lack of planning. He says instead of being able to continue the evacuations after the deadline, the president has pretty much signed the death warrants of those left behind. He says for 20 years we kept the fight there and not on U.S. soil, but now we are 100% at risk of having terror attacks back on U.S. soil again.
It's sad. It's sad. It's tragic. And the worst part, it was preventable.
Military veterans also reacting tonight. Many of our friends, family, and neighbors right here in Utah have put their own lives on the line for all of our freedom. Fox 13's Brian Schnee spoke with 2 Utah veterans who both served in Afghanistan.
The Department of Defense, we have the most powerful military in the world. We have the needs and capability to go and retrieve our personnel.
Born and raised in Utah, Neil Curry knows what it's like to be a part of the bigger mission.
Leave no man behind. I will not fail my comrade, which was in the Ranger Creed. All these things we have abandoned that made up who we are today as a country. And it's very tragic. I mean, the decisions that are being made today in this event will come to haunt us for the years to come.
He served as an Army Ranger from 2004 to 2009, with 5 tours in the Middle East, including one in Afghanistan. Seeing the photos and videos circulating on social media brings back memories, but also sparks a need for conversation among those who served our country.
If veterans are watching this who have served in Afghanistan, I was heartbroken. I was on the verge of tears when this first started unfolding, watching it on the news and talking to buddies who I served with.
Vincent Vargas, a local reservist, served 2 tours in Afghanistan in 2004 and 2006.
There's a lot of veterans who are really hurt by it, and they have every right to be.
He too is watching the events unfold over the past few weeks with the withdrawal of troops and the takeover by the Taliban.
I think there should have been Americans come out first, right? I think that first and foremost we should make sure we take care of our people and take care of our allies in some kind of approach. I don't think it was, definitely seems like a mess, and it's something I think we're going to be paying for a very long time.
Both men agree to some degree that the withdrawal process could have looked a lot different for the safety of not only our troops, but Americans and allies on the ground. For both Vincent and Neil, this is hard to watch.
100%. It is absolutely more dangerous now than it ever has been. The numbers in itself you know, and how we accomplish our missions, they are definitely in a bad position.
I mean, this is a complete failure from our U.S. officials, our chain of command, from, you know, President Biden down to, you know, the generals, that could have been prevented.
Brian Schnee, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Fox 13 News will continue to follow the latest from Afghanistan. Find the latest on our social media pages and anytime at fox13now.com.
Coming up on Fox 13 News at 9.
I feel like people should be able to have an opinion whether they want to take the vaccine or not.
Could there be a vaccine mandate for University of Utah students? Who's in favor of it and what campus leaders are saying tonight?
A little town in central Utah is facing a big problem. How the state is helping people out to make sure they have the resources they need to survive.
Coming up, I'm tracking our wildfire smoke as we head into the weekend, and also we had some strong storms today if we still have a threat for flash flooding.
This man, a registered sex offender, was on a high school campus for days. Now parents want to know why he's not being charged with a crime.
Our investigation was more thorough than theirs.
It appears that way.
Coming up, why law enforcement experts say it's time for police to fix the mistakes uncovered by Fox 13.
Today, the Utah System of Higher Education Committee discussed possibly requiring COVID vaccinations for enrollment in Utah's public universities.
While the committee spoke in favor of a mandate, no decision was made. The committee is working closely with the legislature. An online petition by Unsafe U, an advocacy group at the University of Utah, has more than 800 signatures in favor of a vaccine mandate. A spokesperson for the university says it is still up in the air whether a mandate will be issued.
If we were to do that, there would be plenty of opportunities for students to say, hey, here's a reason I don't want to do it, and to step out of that.
We should know in the coming weeks whether a mandate will be issued. It would not impact student enrollment until the spring semester.
Well, Utah is nearing 3.25 million vaccinations administered. A little more than 8,900 people received shots since yesterday's report, and almost 4,100 additional Utahns became fully vaccinated.
There were nearly 1,500 new COVID-19 cases in Utah today, and 10 more people have died. Of those, one was a male between 15 and 24, and 2 were males between 25 and 44. Only one death was a person older than 85. Hospitalizations are up to 463 now, and the positivity rate continues to climb at 15.4%.
Several states say they are now running out of ICU beds as COVID-related hospitalizations increase. Health officials say a growing number of hospital admissions involve children. The Delta variant maintains its hold on parts of the country, with hospitalizations at their highest levels in 7 months. Florida currently leads the nation with more than 17,000 people hospitalized.
Firefighters are working around the clock to battle several fires in northern and southern California. In northern California, the Caldor fire has destroyed more than 600 structures since it broke out on August 14th. But officials, though, are optimistic the fire will be contained in the coming days as weather conditions improve. President Biden has approved a disaster declaration for California, freeing up aid to the dozens of counties impacted by wildfires.
More Utah firefighters once again on the road heading to California, all to help battle devastating wildfires burning there. Today's task force is the 6th emergency management deployment this summer alone involving Utah firefighters. This season, local crews have helped fight fires in Montana, Oregon, and California. Members of the Unified Fire Authority say deployments like this used to be few and far between.
Now it's a thing every single year for an extended period of time, not just during the summer, but during the shoulder seasons as well, during the spring and the fall as well. We're anticipating this moving forward for the next few years. We're expecting it.
Today's task force consists of 22 team members from Unified Fire, Park City, Murray, Draper, and North Fork. Fork, rather. They are scheduled to be gone for 18 days.
We continue to follow the water crisis in the central Utah town of Schofield. They have run out of water in that little town, and the state is now helping them out. The town is right next to Schofield Reservoir, which should have plenty of water in it, but hydraulically, the town is above the reservoir. The water would also need to be treated, which there is no way to do. On top of that, Schofield State Park is dealing with harmful algal blooms. So the only option is to truck water into the town.
The system is being fed by 2 spring sources. One of the spring sources is completely dried up. The other source is running about 6 gallons per minute.
The town of Schofield does have a well system, but it is not operational at this time. Right now, they're working on getting an operational system that will help in the short term. The state is still very worried about the drought and its effect on small towns like Schofield.
Well, so many of us worried about the drought. We've been hearing about it. We've been talking about it for months now. And we're looking forward, too, as to what's to come to possibly pull us out, Ellison.
Yes, well, our southern part of the state has improved in this week's drought outlook that gets released every single Thursday. So a little bit of good news there, but it's really this upcoming winter, our snow season, that will have to make up for most of the water that we're missing in our reservoirs. So that's what's really going to help our snowpack. And we still have some fires, unfortunately, off to our west. We've done pretty good here in Utah this year, but Logan, Layton, Ogden still dealing with air quality that's somewhere between unhealthy for sensitive groups all the way up to red, which is unhealthy across the board. So here in Salt Lake, it has gotten quite a bit worse in the last couple of hours. So the east side of the Salt Lake Valley, so I'm looking at about the Sugar House areas down through Holiday into Cottonwood Heights, Sandy. That's where our air quality is orange and moderate, so unhealthy for sensitive groups or moderate. Once you get to the middle of Salt Lake Valley, right along I-15 Midvale out towards West Valley, down towards Harriman, that's where our air quality currently is unhealthy. Down into Provo, Spanish Fork, and Payson, it's a mixture of that orange and that red level, so it's just not good here across the state, at least for the northern half of Utah. South of I-70, most of our readings, good air quality, but Salt Lake City right now, 79 degrees. It actually feels so nice outside. It's just tough because it's still pretty smoky out there. Hard to breathe. We had quite a few thunderstorms today. We had a flash flood warning for the Hanksville area over towards Caneville, and then we had also a flash flood warning for Canyonlands, Dead Horse Point State Park, for the Pat Creek burn scar. All of those flash flood warnings have been allowed to expire. Now for the Wasatch Front, mostly clear sky currently and over the last couple of hours, but we do have that smoke, so hard to enjoy it. Satellite and radar will remain pretty dry over the next couple of days. So your road trip weather this weekend, if you were heading out today, we had some of those isolated storms, but we're going to continue with areas of smoke through the weekend for parts of Utah. So we'll have some mandatory action. If you can carpool, absolutely a great idea. If you can cut back on driving, always helps. And then also just maybe not going out for the bike rides instead because it's tough on your lungs. We'll have dry roads this weekend, so there's some good news there. It's just hard to get out and do all the fun stuff that our state has to offer. Tomorrow morning in Salt Lake, about 60 degrees when you first wake up. By 9 a.m., we're about 70 degrees. And then our storm threat for tomorrow, Four Corners and over into Colorado. Futurecast keeps things dry here across the state heading into Friday. A few showers possible near the Four Corners. That's where most of our clouds are. But we head into overnight temperatures. Feels nice tomorrow morning, about 55 to 60 for Ogden, Salt Lake and Provo, 50 for Logan just about at 6 a.m. and St. George low 70s early in the morning. Tomorrow afternoon, temperatures will be mid-80s for the Wasatch Front. St. George close to 105 through Sunday. Into next week, it's looking more and more likely that we're going to see a cool down middle of the week, along with an increased chance for some showers and thunderstorms. And for Salt Lake City, we are in the upper 80s or mid 80s through Saturday, 90s for Sunday, Monday. We'll talk more about your smoky sky forecast later in the hour.
Thanks, Allison. Still to come, an Old West crime is making a comeback. We'll explain why livestock thefts are on the rise and what Utah's Department of Agriculture and Food is doing about it.
Plus, we have seen an increase in crashes on Utah roads this summer. We're going to take an inside look at how UHP is helping commercial vehicles stay in tip-top shape.
In southern Utah, a 10-year-old child is recovering after getting cuts on their neck at a Motel 6 in St. George this morning. Our partners at the St. George News report a woman was arrested in connection with the crime after she fled the motel. The child was sent to the hospital with life-threatening injuries, but they are expected to survive. It is not clear what the relationship between the child and the woman is.
Runaway vehicles have been all too common on Park City streets this past couple of years. It was just a month ago, 2 cars were hit and 3 people hurt when a truck barreled through the roundabout in the city's historic district. Today, the Utah Highway Patrol teamed up with the Park City Police Department to stop trucks for safety checks. Troopers inspected wheels and brakes. They even got on a creeper to inspect under the big rigs. Depending on results, a truck will either be forced to remain in the inspection area until a service truck has made repairs or allowed to return home with a promise to be repaired before being used again.
Coming up after the break.
Prosecutors have declined to file charges against a registered sex offender who they say may have accidentally broke the law.
I didn't get permission from anybody. I didn't, like I said, it's the law is pretty clear.
Tonight we'll show you how his interview with us contradicts the police investigation and how authorities are not doing anything about it.
The Utes officially named their starting quarterback and Tony Finau back at it on the PGA Tour.
A registered sex offender shouldn't be allowed on campus around children.
What process did you go through to see whether you had permission to be on campus?
None. I didn't get permission from anybody.
Law enforcement's responsibility is to investigate. If this is it, if that report is all that they did, that's concerning.
A convicted sex offender who violated the terms of his release by volunteering at a high school in Box Elder County will not face any consequences for it. You might remember the suspect, former Tremonton police officer Jeremy Rose, from an interview earlier this year.
Fox 13 News investigative reporter Adam Herbets broke the story. He joins us live tonight with an update. Adam.
Yeah, Bob Kelly, investigators spent nearly 4.5 months on this case. According to records obtained by Fox 13, they determined this registered sex offender did break the law, but they chose very early on to not charge him with a crime.
I relive my offense every day. It's something that I regret every day.
When Jeremy Rose walked into the Bear River High School theater, he wanted people to view him as a father, not as a registered sex offender. Parents say they knew he was both.
Yeah, it was a really big story. I mean, everyone in town knew who he was. He was a Tremont City police officer.
In 2014, Rose was caught planting hidden cameras, targeting a high school-aged girl to create his own personal stash of child pornography. So he was convicted. He lost his badge and served less than 9 months behind bars.
People on the registry, they're probably some of the safest people out there just because they're so concerned about covering themselves.
He spoke with Fox 13 in March while under another criminal investigation, accused of breaking this state law. A sex offender may not be in a protected area, such as a school, except when the sex offender must be in a protected area to perform his or her parental responsibilities.
It's really vague on how the law is written, and so you kind of have to make a decision as to what your responsibility is as a parent.
Because Jeremy Rose used to be an officer with Tremonton PD, the agency chose to hand over the case to the Weber County Sheriff's Office. This interview with the deputy chief is also from March.
A lot of times they will ask somebody else to investigate the case just because they don't want to be accused of being too severe or too harsh or being too lenient.
4.5 months later, it turns out Weber County Sheriff's Office did not do much investigating at all. According to a report filed by Detective William Smith, the registry confirmed sex offender parents are not allowed to volunteer on their kids' campus. From there, the detective only interviewed the suspect and took no further action on this case.
Do you put a tattoo on my forehead? Because that's the only way you're going to satisfy everybody.
Prosecutors at the Box Elder County Attorney's Office say they did not charge Rose because they don't think he intentionally broke the law. But according to the detective's report, the county chose not to charge him even before interviewing him. At this time, they were not looking to file charges, but simply wanted Jeremy to understand that doing the volunteer work at the high school was not part of his parental responsibilities.
I can't say I sit and worry about it because I really feel like the right people are going to do the right things.
I know what a great investigation looks like. I know what a very good investigation looks like. I know what good, average, mediocre, poor look like. If this is it, if that report is all that they did, that's concerning. It's definitely mediocre.
Chris Bertram is the former deputy chief of Unified Police Department. He agreed to review the case as a third-party expert.
We need more information. You absolutely need more information because there's simple questions, simple investigative questions that can be asked.
Bertram says interviewing the suspect is a good start, but according to the report, investigators failed to interview parents or interview witnesses. They failed to determine whether Rose was in contact with children, and, most importantly, they did not fact-check his statements.
That would just be the minimum, in my opinion. And that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for him, Mr. Rose, because we're having another story done about it. If this was a thorough investigation, you as a reporter would just simply say it was investigated and it was cleared. That would be the extent of the story. And then Mr. Rose could go on with his life. It leaves a cloud over the whole situation.
In his interview with Fox 13, Rose said he welcomed a thorough investigation, asking anyone who accused him of being alone with a child to review surveillance video from inside the theater.
Every second I was in there, I was on camera. So if anybody ever tried to bring anything up, there you go.
But Rose also told investigators he spoke with the former Garland police chief before going on campus. Watch and listen as he told Fox 13 a different story.
What process did you go through to see whether you had permission to be on campus?
None. I didn't get permission from anybody.
So here's the thing. I mean, even that interview, coupled with the investigator's interview with him, I'm hearing two different stories now. If he was less than honest with one of those two interviews, law enforcement or you, then the question is why?
When Fox 13 spoke to Chad Soph, the former chief of Garland Police, he said investigators never reached out to him, but he wishes they did some fact-checking. Quote, "I don't remember even talking to Jeremy Rose. I would never give a registered sex offender permission to be on the stage crew of a high school play, being around the same age children that he victimized."
In most cases, Adam, this doesn't get the attention. The public doesn't know. Nobody knows about this.
Jeremy Rose said he did not want to do another interview. He did tell me his conversation with Chief Soph was recorded, but got angry and hung up the phone when I asked if he could send it to me.
If they put me in jail, then they put me in jail, but it's my family that they're going to have to answer to.
In March, the Weber County Sheriff's Office said they may be interested in reviewing Rose's interview with Fox 13, but the report does not show that ever happened. For more than a month now, police and the county attorney's office have ignored multiple requests for comment.
This is an important issue. I always find it disappointing when law enforcement doesn't want to talk. As an investigator, you're seeking the truth. Whether we like it or not, we're seeking the truth.
As journalists, we are expected to tell both sides of the story, or at the very least, give both sides the opportunity to share their perspective. Several parents tell us this case is an example of investigators denying them that same opportunity. Although students tell Fox 13 they wish they were notified of Rose's status on the registry, there have not been any students who have publicly accused him of doing anything inappropriate while on campus. Reporting in studio, Adam Herbets, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Adam, thank you. If you have questions about tonight's investigation, Adam will be live on Facebook in just a few minutes. He'll try to answer as many questions as possible.
And if you have a story you'd like the Fox 13 News investigative team to look into, email iteam@fox13now.com. You can also call the tip line. The number is 801-536-1314.
Still to come, the Delta variant of COVID-19 has devastated countries around the world. See how Utah is giving a helping hand to people of Nepal in their time of need. An Old West crime is still alive in the 21st century. Livestock rustling is on the rise here in Utah.
We have 129 head of cattle that are missing and 5 horses or mules that have been reported missing as well. So significant numbers, and we hope to continue to increase our patrol and make sure that we can help these animals get returned to their rightful owner.
It's not punishable by death anymore like it used to be, but depending on the price of livestock, it can be a serious crime. Last year, the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food also saw a sharp spike in livestock killings. Nearly 50 horses and cattle were shot for entertainment and left to rot.
Members of the Utah Air National Guard will depart tomorrow for Nepal, where the Delta variant of COVID-19 is raging there. The 151st Air Refueling Wing, in coordination with the U.S. Transportation Command's program for private donations, will transport 10,000 pounds of COVID-19 supplies, including gowns, masks, and oxygen equipment.
We have a very short windows of time, but as you see here, how if a community can, when it comes together, we can do anything. This is our country, United States of America, and with the help of Utah, we are doing this.
They certainly are. Help on the way. The flight will take 72 hours, and after about 6 hours on the ground to unload in Nepal, the crew will turn around and return to Utah.
Still ahead tonight, the number of teens who want to drive is dwindling. We'll take a look at the reasons why some high school age kids do not want to get behind the wheel.
Coming up in sports, will the Pac-12 expand? We do officially know who will be Utah's starting quarterback. And Tony Finau back in contention on the PGA Tour just 3 days after getting his first win in 5 years. His highlights on the way.
So glad you can join us for Fox 13 News at 9. Glad you're with us tonight. Fox 13 meteorologist Allison Krogan will have your first alert forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
In national news, the U.S. Department of Education is forgiving more than $1 billion in student loan debt for 115,000 borrowers who used to attend ITT Technical Institute. If you recall, ITT Tech went out of business 5 years ago and left 40,000 students high and dry with piles of debt and no degree to show for it. Since January, the Biden administration has canceled student loans for more than 560,000 borrowers.
You may find this surprising, but a teenage rite of passage seems to be falling by the wayside, at least for some people. Information provided by the Federal Highway Administration shows about 61% of 18-year-olds had a driver license in 2018. That is down from 80% in 1983. The number of 16-year-olds with licenses dropped from 46% to 25% during that same time period. Some teenagers are using ride-sharing apps, while others say they find driving just too stressful. It's also very expensive.
Yeah, that's
others say they really don't care about cars or prefer to take public transportation. Today is Women's Equality Day, and to celebrate, the U.S. Small Business Administration hosted a virtual fireside chat. One of the speakers featured was Natalie Madeira Cofield with the SBA's Office of Women's Business Ownership.
Entrepreneurs, especially women who are economically or socially disadvantaged, are offered comprehensive training and counseling on a vast array of topics in many languages to help them start and grow businesses.
Well, the SBA is particularly interested in helping female entrepreneurs who are economically or socially disadvantaged and have many programs to help them start and grow their businesses. If you would like more information, we do have a link on our website. Visit fox13now.com.
With high-powered rifles and scopes, hunters already have the advantage when hunting big game animals. But a majority of Utah hunters, 62%, think high-tech gear, such as trail cameras and night vision goggles, just isn't fair. House Bill 295 addressed the issue after the Division of Wildlife Resources sent out a survey to 6,000 Utah hunters.
The overwhelming majority did not like the use of trail cameras when they could transmit a live image. So they felt like a trail camera that could transmit a live image wasn't fair. It wasn't fair to the animal, it wasn't fair chase.
So during big game hunts, they cannot be used to take or aid in taking a big game animal. Also, night vision devices such as thermal imaging and infrared devices cannot be used starting 48 hours before any big game hunt and until 48 hours after the big hunt or the big game hunt ends.
Well, tracking quite a bit of smoke here across the state. We still have those fires burning out in California. Because of that, we still have some smoke out there. So it was noticeably worse today compared to the last few days. By tomorrow afternoon, we're going to see that smoke making its way a little further east, down towards Price, including portions of southwestern Utah. But the thickest smoke will still be into California and Nevada off to our west. But by Saturday morning, behind a front, I think there's a good chance we see a little bit of a break. So we'll want to keep watching that. Check the air quality before you head outside to exercise. And it is gorgeous, even though it's a bit smoky out there. So Deer Valley, Bald Mountain, this camera is looking down towards 40, Jordanelle, out towards Hideout, Toohey. Just gorgeous views towards the UNS. As you're waking up here along the Wasatch Front tomorrow morning, it'll be in the low 60s at 6 a.m. By 10 o'clock in the morning, our temperatures will be back into the 70s. So we'll have the clear sky, but it's going to be a hazy sunshine. We had a few thunderstorms across eastern Utah that really packed a punch from Hanksville towards Canyonlands down towards LaSalle, right over that Pat Creek burn scar. So no reports of any problems, which I'm happy to see and hear, especially because we did have a flash flood warning that was posted for that, but it's been allowed to expire. We have mostly clear sky from Logan down to Provo right now out towards Tooele. Our storm threat for tomorrow, Four Corners, Mexican Hat area over into Colorado. But strongest storms will be off to our northeast tomorrow. We're pretty much going to have a dry weekend ahead of us here across the region, and we're going to have a better chance for some showers to develop heading into middle of next week with our next cool down. But for tomorrow afternoon, temps will be about 85 degrees for Ogden, Salt Lake, and Provo, St. George close to 105 for several more days. But tomorrow morning, we're going to have that chance for a few showers near the Four Corners, but we'll have mostly clear sky for Salt Lake. And then by next Tuesday, we're going to see a chance for some more showers to return here across the region on and off through the middle to end of next week. So our precipitation outlook days 6 to 10 does bring a better chance to trend a little bit wetter than usual here across Utah. So we're going to see the return of monsoonal moisture for much of the state middle of next week. So St. George, you're close to 105 through Sunday. And then next week, your cool down brings you only about 90 degrees by next Wednesday and Thursday with a chance for some thunderstorms middle of the week. For Salt Lake City, we are 80s the next few days. 89 is a typical high this time of year, so we're pretty close to average for much of our 7-day forecast. And then by the middle of next week, we'll see some more clouds, and we'll also have those temperatures a little bit cooler. But keep in mind that smoke is still out there. Hopefully it'll improve behind a shallow cold front that moves through tomorrow night.
It's already been an incredible week for Tony Finau. Won his second PGA Tour event on Monday, 5 years after his first win, and it came in the first tournament of the FedEx Cup playoffs. That win at the Northern Trust in New Jersey put Finau in the #1 spot in the FedEx Cup standings with 2 tournaments to play, starting with the BMW Championship in Maryland. first round. Great shot in the 11th hole, set up a birdie. The top 30 players in the standings after this week advance to the Tour Championship. Tony will be there, but he wants another good, strong finish this week. Followed up a double bogey on 14 with 3 straight birdies at 15, 16, 17. Tied for 7th place, 5 under par, 3 shots behind the leaders. It's official. Charlie Brewer will be the Utes' starting quarterback. Week 1 against Weber State, 1 week from tonight. The Utes released their depth chart showing the graduate transfer from Baylor beat out redshirt sophomore Cam Rising, who won the job last fall before injuring his shoulder on the first game of the season. The Utes feel they have 2 quality quarterbacks. One more Utah football note, Pac-12 announced they will not expand at this time. Utah State football team will play Texas A&M in 2025. This will be the Aggies' second game in College Station as they lost to Texas A&M 38-30 in 2009. Utah State has 2 other future games against teams in the SEC. They'll play Alabama in 2022 at Mississippi State in 2024. College soccer, 2 ranked teams battling in Provo. Number 25 USC and number 24 BYU. Cougars took the lead in the first half. Brecken Mozingo shoots and scores. Great hit to put the Cougars up 1-0. BYU added another goal from Bella Folino. Before the half, BYU leads it 2-0 late in the game. Well, on the heels of skateboarding being Olympic sport, for the first time, Street League Skateboarding begins its 3-leg championship tour tomorrow in Salt Lake at the fairgrounds. A handful of medalists from Tokyo will be competing, as will the greatest skateboarder of all time, Tony Hawk. Female skateboardings have been a big intros lately, and that includes 6-time X Games gold medalist Leticia Bofino, who was born in Brazil but now lives in Los Angeles.
I never thought I'd be a professional skater one day. I never thought I'd be in the Olympics, and it's just been an amazing journey, and the whole Olympics experience it was amazing. But I'm really excited that Street League is finally back, and it's one of my favorite competitions, so I'm excited to be here.
The Street League Skateboarding Championship Tour goes through Saturday. General admission is free until they fill it up. Fox 13 will have more on the ribbon cutting ceremony tomorrow morning on Good Day, Utah.
Oh, they'll fill it up pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's really popular now, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And to see a part of the Olympics is just, oh, really?
Yeah, if you see what these guys do, they're true athletes on the skateboards for sure.
Cool.
Go
Thanks,
check it
Jeff.
out. Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Thanks again, everyone, for being with us tonight.
QuickCast is coming up next.
Good night.